An Oxford Cleric, still a student though, one who had taken logic long ago, was there. His horse was thinner than a rake, and he was not too fat, I undertake, but had a hollow look, a sober stare, the thread upon his overcoat was bare. He had found no preferment in the church, and he was too unworldly to make search for secular employment. By his bed, he preferred having 20 books in red and black of Aristotle's philosophy to having fine clothes, fiddle, or psaltery. The philosopher, as I have told, he had not found the stone for making gold. Whatever money from his friends he took, he spent on learning or another book, and prayed for them most earnestly, returning thanks to them thus for paying for his learning. His only care was study, and indeed he never spoke a word more than was need. Formal at that, respectful in the extreme, short to the point, and lofty in his theme. The thought of moral virtue filled his speech, and he would gladly learn and gladly teach.
The Oxford Cleric is a young man that was not overly obese and dressed in a robe similar to a monk's. He is often depicted riding a horse, described as thinner than a rake. In the textbook, however, you see that none of these descriptions apply to the Oxford Cleric in the book. I believe this is because the government is feeding you lies. At least both photos show him holding a book, which we will get to later. The Oxford Cleric is a, drumroll please, a cleric! Wow, who could have guessed? It's almost as if it's in his own title. Sarcasm aside, he is technically a student learning to become a cleric. The cleric is part of the clergy, and our Oxford friend is most likely training to be a monk, which explains his gown. Monks were scholars and could read and write in Latin, but unlike the average monk, the Oxford Cleric barely shows any religious connotation. He would read books, study them, and teach his studies to those interested, even though he is a man of few words. The Oxford Cleric is extremely poor, making him a member of the serf class, as he is only a student. Much like us when we pocket tens of thousands of dollars to get a mediocre education in college later to never use the degree you earned wasting your life away into nothingness, the Oxford Cleric makes absolutely no money and depends highly on his friends' generous donations. So in essence, he just borrows and says he'll return it at some point. Speaking of which, where's my wallet?
Don't worry, I'm just using it so I can get another Bible.
Hey! Get back here!
I'll keep you in my prayers.